Hey Cookie World, this is Lauren the Cheerful Baker, and I appreciate you all joining me today. We are going to decorate an adorable cookie. This is it. Isn't that cute? And this is part of my Easter collection for my cookie cutter business, which is Cheerful Cutters. I am the Cheerful Baker. I'll take that off now since I think you all know that. If you want to find this and other cookie cutters, you can go to www.cheerfulcutters.com. Now, I never know where to look when I'm doing this, so maybe I'm looking at you, maybe I'm not. But it's okay because you're only going to see me for another minute, and then we are going to get to decorating cookies. So the colors that I'm going to use today are this gorgeous pink. This is Ann Clark's Bubblegum Pink. I love Ann Clark colors. We are going to use this tannish taupey color, and I got this by the Mocha Brown, which again is Ann Clark. You can tell I've used this a lot. I just used a little bit and it made that really pretty taupey light color. We are going to use this gorgeous green. I love this green. This is Leaf Green, again by Ann Clark. And then we're going to use white, which is just the icing color that came out of the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my phone down so we can get started. So this is the cookie that we are going to make. Isn't he cute? And I got the inspiration for this design by going shopping, honestly. And I found a really cute flower holder that was a white bisque bunny. And I thought, that'd be super cute with a cookie. So we are going to get started. I'm going to flip him over here. And first I am going to use a thick consistency, a piping consistency white icing. So I have it in my little tipless bag. I'm just going to cut off the tip, pretty small. And I am going to also use a marker. This is just an edible black marker. You can get these anywhere. I don't even know where I got this one, but I have multiple markers. I really like to use markers because it kind of helps me to draw things out of my cookie. So the very first thing I'm going to be drawing is where his basket's going to go. Okay? So let me move my scissors. It's going to kind of come over here. Do you see? I'm just going to draw a straight line over where his tail is. Now, if you mess this up, you're going to cover it with icing, so it does not even matter. I'm going to kind of go up here right above this circle, sort of where this little line would come straight over. That's where I'm going to go over. And then I don't want it to go straight up and down because it's sort of in an angle. So I'm going to angle it like that. Now that's going to be my basket. The only other thing I need to do is think about where my bunny's head is going to stop. So I have one ear right here, do you see? And I'm going to do another ear, okay? Coming down like this. And then I'm just going to go like that. Now, you don't have to do that. I just find it easier with the marker. So I've already cut my bag. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to outline my bunny. And when I'm outlining, I'm not completely dragging my icing. What I'm doing is I'm holding it up and I'm letting it fall. And I want to go all the way down to where my bunny's head would start with that line, because that is going to make a little bit of a differentiation between the ears. Another reason I liked this design is I didn't really have to worry about faces, and sometimes faces can be tricky. This is one of those cookies that looks difficult, but really it is not. And those are always fun because, you know, we all want to impress our friends. We want to have the prettiest cookies on the Easter table. So that is done. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to outline my basket, but I'm just going to go and I'm going to outline around here. with my stiff consistency icing. I got a little blob there, but it's okay. It's going to be completely covered up. You're not even going to be able to see it. Now, I have my thinner consistency. It's my flooding consistency icing. I have it, and again, I'm just going to cut the tip off my bag. Okay? And I am going to start flooding in my bunny. And when I flood, I go from the outside in. Notice I'm not going over that middle line because I want there to be some spacing between his ears. And that line is what makes that spacing happen. And I'm going to take my scribe and I'm just going to kind of move that icing around to make sure it gets to the edges. So I'm going to keep going. Now I want my tail to stick up a little bit higher than the rest of my bunny body. So I'm going ahead and I am going to fill in everything, and then once this crusts over, I'll add the tail, and it'll be a little bit higher. When you're decorating cookies, you always have to think, what's in the background? So I'm filling it in. You never want cookie to show when you're decorating cookies. You always want to make sure that you really flood it with icing and make it really good and thick. I teach lots of cookie classes, and I find that the biggest error that people make is not putting enough icing on their cookie. So he is good and filled up, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit this aside for a minute. And I am going to let it, just let it crust over just a little bit. And I'm going to kind of explain to you all how we're going to do the rest of the things on the cookie. So let me grab something I forgot to grab real quickly. A little bit of parchment paper, because I want to show you how to make the flowers. So here's my parchment paper. Okay, now I love these flowers right here because really they're blobs. So all I've done is I'm going to take some, this is the really pretty bubblegum pink. I am going to just cut the tip off, and this is a flooding consistency icing. And all I'm going to do is make a blob. And usually when I make my blobs, I try and have an odd number of petals. I don't even know if you really call them petals. Just little areas that are kind of sticking out. Okay? So, and then I'm just going to fill this in. Now, the reason I wanted to show you all how to do this on parchment paper is you could actually make a lot of these ahead of time, and then you could let them dry overnight, and you can just pop them off, and then you would be able to store them and use them whenever you needed a flower. So all these flowers, that's all it is. Now, once this crusts over, I would do the little design on top, which you'll see me do in just a second. But these can be called royal icing transfers if you make them ahead of time. And it's just a really time-saving way to decorate cookies. Now, the next thing I want to show you is my little basket right here. What I've done is I have filled the bottom with a little bit of icing. In this one it's tan, but I actually am gonna do it in white because I just think that that will kind of make the brown basket weave show up just maybe a little bit better. So on this bunny, I'm gonna do it white. If you would prefer to have it brown, I think it's kind of fun when you can see the difference, what something looks. I'm gonna show you this really close up. This is flat. Sometimes when you're using a thicker consistency icing, it kind of sticks up, and you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. It kind of doesn't go flat. So I let it dry for just a second, and I use my clean finger and I kind of push it down a little bit. Okay, so my bunny has, you know, dried just a little bit. So I'm gonna bring him back into view, and let me go out. Okay, here he is. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna fill in this area where my flowers are gonna go. So I'm just gonna fill this in with white. You wouldn't have to fill this in with white. You could just do your flowers directly onto your cookie, but I think it looks a lot better if you have a white background. So I'm just filling it in with my white flood icing. And I'm gonna use my scribe to get closer to the edge to my bunny ear. Okay, I'm gonna use my scribe and I'm gonna move it around. I don't use really, really thin flood icing. Mine is a little bit thicker, you can probably tell. So I do kind of have to move it around and sometimes touch it or wiggle my cookie to make it lay flat. But I like this a little bit thicker because it doesn't fall over my cookie. And when you're doing multiple designs, you don't have to worry as much about dry time. There's a lot less dry time when you're using the thicker flood. So, you know what? I'm gonna totally change my mind. That's what's fun about decorating cookies. I said I was gonna do the back with the white, but I'm not. I'm gonna do it in pink. Because now that I'm sitting here watching this come together, I think that I'm gonna like this. And the pink again is Bubblegum Pink from Anne Clark's set of gel colors. It's right here. It's just, I just didn't put a lot. It's very, very light. Then I'm going to fill it in with the pink. I think that that'll be so pretty against the, with the brown on top. So I'm going to fill this in with the pink. And I don't want a ton of icing on this one because I'm going to put, you know, that brown on top of it. So I didn't put a ton, and I'm just kind of working with my scribe to get it where it needs to be. Now this is a design, you could do your bunny in pink, you could do your flowers, whatever color you want. If you are uncomfortable with making flowers, another thing that you can do is you can just go to Michael's and they have flowers that are pre-made that you can use, and that is a very, very handy thing. So we're gonna let that dry for a minute, and I am going to tell you how to make this little design right here. So again, I'm gonna get my parchment paper, bring it over. It's starting to crust up a little bit, but we're not gonna use that, so it doesn't really matter. And I have a thicker consistency green. So again, I'm just gonna cut the tip off. We're gonna use that. And then I have a thinner consistency, which is my flood icing. we're going to use. So, a lot of people, when they start making really small icing areas, they notice that they get craters in their icing. That's you'll have a beautiful little design and you'll leave it and you'll come back an hour later and it'll have it looks like a hole. So, do you see this right here? I did that on purpose so you all could see. That is what a crater is, and it's so sad. And when I first started making cookies, let me tell you all, when I first started making cookies, I made all these beautiful cookies, and I don't even remember what they were, but I was so proud. And the next day I looked at them, and they had all these holes in them, and I thought, what in the world? It was craters. So I had never heard of craters. I really didn't know what I was doing when I started decorating cookies, but I'm going to show you how you can prevent them. So we'll go back to our cookie. What you can do is, there's several things, but I'm going to show you the one that I feel like is the most, works the best. You have your small icing area. You're going to take your thicker icing, which is your piping icing, and you're going to sort of fill that in like that. That way the icing does not have anywhere to sink, because that's what happens when you have a crater. Now, if you forget to do that, another thing that you could do is you can put your cookie in front of a fan. That really, really helps. Or if you have a dehydrator, you can use a dehydrator. I love the dehydrator. I use mine all the time. I put it on 95 degrees for about 20 minutes. It does not dry the cookie out. It helps prevent craters. I love it. So we're going to go back here. We have it. We wanted to let it dry just a little bit. And then we're going to go on top with our thinner icing. I'm going to use my scribe. Now, this will not crater because I added that little extra level of security underneath. So let's get our cookie back over here. Move out. Well, we don't want to move out that much. Move back in a little bit. I have a, you all can see this little brown area I'm working on. This is from this company called Acorn Backers, and it's awesome because my table is bright yellow. Everything in my house is very bright, and I needed something that was more neutral, and you can wipe it off. I mean, it's really a very handy thing. So now, since my bunny, I did him first, he's probably, I could go ahead and do his tail on top, but do you see how the tail is a little bit over top of the basket? So I don't want to do him. But what I want to do now is I want to do the basket because I want my flowers on top to look like they're falling over my basket. But my basket isn't completely dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to do a flower. Well, you'll see. That way we can work with our cookie when it's just a little bit drier. So right here, this area right here, this is where I'm going to do a flower, okay? This is going to be my green leaves. So I'm just going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm just going to do a blob. You cannot mess this up. There's no right or wrong way to do this cookie. Because honestly, it's just a little blob of icing. Okay? Then I'm going to fill it in with my blood consistency. This is a little bit different color than I used on the cookie that I'm showing you all, because I sort of made that color up by mixing colors, and I thought it might be easier to be able to tell you exactly what I use. I'm a I used to be an art teacher, so I love mixing colors, and sometimes that's hard when you first start out, so I just wanted to do it the easy way first. Okay, so I've done that flower. I'm going to do another one right beside it. And I can have it covering my bunny's ear a little bit, which is fine. It'd be really cute. Now this one is just going to have 3 petals. It looks really cute when you do things in odd sizes. And I don't want these two to get too close together because then it'll just look like one big blob. There's another one. It's coming together, isn't it? And then my third one is going to be down here above. Do you see how this is kind of hanging over the basket? So I'm not going to do that one next. I'm not going to do that one yet. I'm going to go ahead and do the basket. So we're going to take our really pretty taupey color that we made. And again, I made that by using just this Ann Clark Mocha Brown. And I just put a little bit in there. And I'm going to cut off my tip. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to make lines going across. And what I like to do is I like to start in the middle and then kind of divide, you know, go halvesies and then halvesies again. For me, anyway, that is how to get the straightest lines. And this again is just a thick consistency icing. I used pink underneath just because I thought it would be pretty, but you could use brown. Plus another benefit of using pink is I already have pink flood icing. I didn't have to make another color. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to rotate my cookie because it's easier for me to go from left to right than it is to go from top to bottom. And I'm going to start in the middle again. Now, whoops, messed that up a little bit, but that's okay. It's just a basket. There we go. Now, I don't know if you can see, you probably can't, but this is sticking above, like it doesn't look like it's woven together. So I'm gonna let it dry for a minute, and then you'll see I'm gonna use my finger to push this top line down on the bottom line, flatten it out a little bit, and it makes it look more like a basket. Okay, and then I'm gonna go around the edge. So that's my basket. I'm gonna let it dry just a minute and then I will push it down. Now I'm gonna make a little design. You could do just a straight line across the top, but I'm going to do a border. So let me show you if you want to be fancy and do the border. All you do is you squeeze icing and then you pull it away. Then you push forward, squeeze, pull away. Push forward, squeeze, pull away. Push forward, squeeze, pull away. Push forward, really squeeze out a dot, pull it away. Okay, I'll do it again. Squeeze out a dot, pull it. Push back towards the dot, squeeze out another dot, pull it. Push back towards the dot, squeeze out another dot, pull it back. So when I'm going forward to my other dot, I am squeezing, but I'm squeezing very lightly because I really don't want it to come out very much until I'm building that little dot. So that is a fun little border. It does take a little bit of practice, but once you get it, you will put it on everything. So here is my basket. It's a little bit dry now, so I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to push down, and you can see, I don't know if you can see, but it's making the two lines kind of fit together more, so it looks like more like a basket. But I'm going to put some more lines because there's not enough. You cannot take this icing away, you know, once you put it on there. So I try and do what I think I might like in the beginning, and then look at it and say, oh yeah, maybe it does need a little bit more. So I think it needed a little bit more to look more like a basket. I don't think it needs any more going the other direction. So now that does look like a basket. I'm going to do that design that I just showed you all on the top. So squeeze, pull away, squeeze, pull away, squeeze, pull away. And this is, I'm doing this very slowly, but once you get the hang of this, you can do this so fast. This is called a bead border. Okay, now I'm going to do the bead border on the top, and I'm going to do the bead border on the top bottom, because I just think it adds a little bit of extra. It's sort of a rocking motion. Okay, so there's my little basket. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to make my, oh, hold on. Y'all need to be able to see the other bunny. I'm going to go ahead and make my bunny's arm, because this has been drying probably 10 minutes and the arm won't sink down. If I did it right away, it would just sink into the icing underneath. Okay. Now here's his arm. Then I'm going to take my brown before I fill it in, and I'm just going to go around, and I'm going to kind of put it in the middle of his arm, in the middle of that white, and then we'll fill it with the white, and it'll cover that up. Now you can get real fancy and like make a little design like I did over here, but honestly I didn't love that. I think I just like the regular. So this is an area that's very small and we do not want a crater, so I'm going to fill it in with the piping icing. Let that dry for just a second, and we will put the flooding icing on top, and then it will not crater. Now I'm going to take my piping icing, and I'm just going to do just a little fluffy tail right here. Okay, easy, easy. I'm using my piping icing because I want it to be nice and thick and big and fluffy. Then I'm going to go back over with my flooding icing, and I'm going to go over top of my little bunny's arm. And because I did that brown and kind of put it on the inside of his arm, it really does look like it's underneath, which is what we want. Okay? Done. Now what we need to do, since we've done the basket, is we need to do this flower right here, right? Because it's kind of leaning over. So again, I'm going to take my flooding icing, and actually, do I want to do that? I don't want to do that yet. I'm going to do the green first. Okay, so I'm going to take my piping consistency icing, and first thing I do is I make a line kind of where I want it, and I want it to look like it's going down in the basket. Then I'm going to make my ovals. And there's no right or wrong way to do these. Because all you're doing is just making a little piece of greenery. And then I'm going to fill these in a little bit because they're really small and I do not want to have craters. I'm just pushing these little points down. Then I can take my flooding consistency and I can just go right over top. Plus this makes them really good and poofy. And we all want the poof on our cookies, right? Okay. So here's my really cute, poofy greenery. Isn't that cute? Then I'm going to do my next flower. So again, just using my icing and making a flower. And then I will do the design on top, which is when it's really going to be cute. These are called blob flowers. I made them up. Well, I mean, maybe somebody has done them before me. Who knows? But that's just what I like to call them because it really takes no skill. It's just a blob. Now, I like always putting lots of detail on mine. So do you see how I did the little dots over here on this one? Now, you can choose to do that if you like the extra, or you could just leave it without the dots. So I think for this one, I'm going to leave it without the dots because I think that it looks kind of pretty. So let's see, while this is drying, what else can I tell you? I wish that we could have a question and answer. I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I'm the Cheerful Baker, because we have to let this dry for a second or it won't work. I'm Lauren, the Cheerful Baker. I've been baking cookies for about 5 years. I've been baking cookies my whole life, but I've been decorating for about 5 years. I am a retired art teacher and sales rep for American Greetings is what I did before my children were born. My favorite thing is I have a cookie cutter business called Cheerful Cutters. It's www.cheerfulcutters.com, and I make and create and draw clip art and then create cookie cutters from them. And I started doing that because my husband is a techie and he wanted a 3D printer. And I said, if we get a 3D printer, you can print cookie cutters. So he bought one and that was all she wrote. But I find cookie decorating super duper relaxing. I do tons of videos all the time. So if you all want to go over and check me out at cheerfulbaker.com. I'm sorry, at Instagram, The Cheerful Baker, you'll see, lots of videos that I do. And I think we might be able to go back to our cookie here in just a second. But I want to tell you all some things too that I have found in cookie decorating that I would like to share. Tipless bags are your friend. Who wants to cut all those tips? You can find tipless bags from lots of different companies. I get mine off of Amazon. They're very inexpensive. They're very thin, but it doesn't matter because we're not putting tons of pressure like cake decorators are when they're doing buttercream. So I use very inexpensive tipless bags, but they must be tipless bags, because if they're regular bags and you try and make them tipless bags, they won't quite work, because bags that are meant to use with tips, the point does not go all the way to the end and it won't quite work right. So I love tipless bags because you can just throw them away. Also, if you've made way more icing than you intended, you can just freeze it. And what I'll do is I will take my tipless bag and I will push all the icing to the back, meaning not to the end. I'll push it all down here to the back, like with a knife. You know, I'll hold it and just do the knife like this. And then I will fold this over like this, and I will put it inside of a Ziploc bag, and I freeze my icing. That is a great thing to do. You can just thaw it out. It only takes about an hour on the counter to thaw it out. And you'll usually have to remix it, you know, just mix it back up, but you just don't want to waste icing. Another thing that you can do is you can make royal icing transfers with all of your leftover icing, which is another wonderful use for icing, because, you know, you took the time to make the icing. You do not want to waste the icing. So now we're going to go back down, and I'm going to show you on my little royal icing transfer. Now, do you see how I moved it around so the icing cracked? A lot of times people will say, my icing's cracked, like I'll see on Facebook groups and stuff. My icing's cracked, what happened? Well, it's most likely that they moved the cookie. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you with my thicker icing how to achieve the little lines on top. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make C's. So we're gonna make backwards and forward C's. So I start out with a forward C. Okay, and then I'm gonna go around with another C, and I'm gonna have the end go to the middle of that C. Then I'm just gonna go around making C's, building towards the outside of my design. There is no rhyme or reason to this. You're just making C's or smiley faces. Now sometimes you can start at one little leaf and you can go around to the one next to it, and that looks good. So, you all think you can do that? Isn't that so super easy? Also, let me show you something else. The little dots that we might put on this one, if you use thick consistency icing, it's gonna have a little point on the end. So what you can do is you can squeeze it and then you can go around, and that kind of helps. But honestly, I like using the flooding consistency, because watch, you make a dot and it just rounds itself out. I know it's hard to see, but trust me, you want to use the pipe with the flooding consistency, but you don't want it to be too watery thin, because otherwise it'll just make a hole, it'll make a crater. So that's why my piping or my flooding consistency is usually a little bit thicker, because that way I can use it in more ways. So let's see, I think that's probably dry enough. If it's not, it'll just sink down in, but I think we'll be all right. Let me move this. Okay, so let me get a little bit closer. So I'm going to do the C method. I'm just going to do a little C. And I'm just going around. There's really, honestly, no rhyme or reason to this. You're just building from the inside to the out. And it makes it look like a flower. My hand is shaking for some reason. Now this one, because I can reach to, I'm going to go around both of them. Okay, that one is done. Now this messed up just a little bit, but you know what my husband always says? It's just a cookie. Someone's just going to eat it. Now, sometimes the piping consistency icing will poke up at the end because it's a little bit thicker, so you can just use your scribe to push it down. So now let's do the next one. You make a C, then you start in the center and go around to the outside. So it looks like a C and another C. A frontward C and a backyard C are giving each other a hug. Okay, and then we're just going from the inside out. Trust me, you really cannot mess this floral up. So there's that one. And then we have one more. I don't know if this is dry enough, but we're just going to take a shot. I think it is. It's okay. Now let's say I started doing this and it wasn't dry enough. I could just use a little scraper and take that blob off and start again. So that's done. And guess what? Our cookie is complete. So let me pull back out. What do you all think? Is that a cute one or what? I love it. Now, I would love to know your thoughts on which you like better. Do you like the more simplified version, or do you like the one with all the little dots over top of it? Honestly, I think I like the more simplified version. Now, once this is completely dry, I could use some petal dust and I could make, you know, make a little cheek on here. But I don't want to do that because this, like I said, the inspiration to this was a bisque bunny that I saw. Did I say it was bisque? A white bunny that held flowers, and I thought that was so pretty, and I thought that would make the prettiest cookie. So thank you all for watching today. I hope you learned a little bit about cookie decorating, and if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out. My email is lauren@cheerfulcutters.com. And again, I would love for you to follow me on Instagram. And then last but not least, I have a great cookie cutter subscription box. So if you're interested in learning more about cookie decorating and getting a fun surprise assortment every month, then check that out. You can go to cheerfulcutters.com and look for the cheerful box, and you can read all about it. So have a blessed, wonderful day, and I am gonna go and eat my cookie because after all, that's the most fun thing, right, about making cookies is getting to eat them. So bye bye.